What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Fifthunit podcast.
Well, family.
Are you doing the actual intro?
Do you want to do it?
Sure, I can do it.
Hit us with your best intro. That's what I always do. You joke, but it's just like one of those things, because it's the only set thing, it becomes super, like, I find it quite, like, jarring.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't want it to be shit.
Yeah.
But
Kick it off with "What's up, Pussios?"
It's in the fucking Stozzle podcast. There was nice music before.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah,
like,
then
someone gives an overview of
Callum.
Callum gives an overview. They do it.
We can do some music. Okay, ready?
Okay, it makes sense, because it means...
What am I supposed to do? Skip it back. Skip boom back. Skip scum. Skip it back. Skip it boom 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 back. Skip it back. The beat about back.
Wait, that's it.
Please make that the intro to all of the 50-minute podcast.
That's the intro. That's the intro.
Oh, I please
Mate, that's done.
use that as the
That's
intro.
done. That's done. That's
but
it.
use that as the intro for every single 50-minute podcast.
I think so.
Okay.
That was sick.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Fifthunit podcast. Today we are joined by our strong friend,
Hi, I'm Finn, a mediocre strong friend.
commonly known as Beans, as well.
Mostly known as beans.
Mostly known as beans, because I once ate some baked beans on a trip.
Oh, it was so much more than
Yeah,
that.
there's layers to it. It's like an onion. You peel back the layers and you just find out why he's called beans.
You have to ask me in person.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I'm not telling that story again for the 50-minute time.
trust me. And
Chris, hey guys, I'm back.
Funnily enough,
All the time.
the strongest of the boys.
That's not true.
Nah, for sure.
we're going to have to do an arm wrestle live on
No,
podcast.
I hate arm- Chris, I hate arm wrestles.
Snap my arm mid-podcast.
No, mate, no, I don't know. It depends. Or
Relative.
per body weight, maybe. But,
Relative
like,
strength,
Relative strength, potentially. But like in
Absolutely.
terms of like actual like weight I can lift, you are
What are you
definitely stronger
lifting
than me.
nowadays?
Not as much as you. Maybe my bench might be higher than yours.
Yeah, but body weight wise, how heavy? Are you?
When I went to Massimo, I was 70.
And then
No, 69.
Nice.
Perfect. Actually.
Nice.
Perfect.
And then, and me as well, the weakest one. So.
Why don't you lift? You don't lift at all, do you?
No.
So you
You
only
did
lifted
for like
once.
a week.
I lift our food into my mouth, but...
Damn.
I think you lifted for like a week back.
Not for a week. I was really good for a few months. Post-corona.
Yeah.
I was gymming every day. Well, not every day. 3
Yeah,
times
you
a week.
were actually.
I was on it. I was proper doing good. Like, I was enjoying it as well. But then
Yeah.
I lost all motivation for it after I was isolated.
That's
Yeah.
really
Downed.
interesting. You didn't want to be like, you didn't come out of isolation like, oh, I want to do this more. You were just like, fuck this.
No, I
I'm
got
doing that
I got
again.
way more into training after isolation, and then I guess didn't feel the need to lift because I was
Yeah.
just enjoying the jump
Yeah.
so much and felt like I didn't need it.
That's
yeah.
fair.
Makes sense. I mean, like, I was lifting for like a year before, like 2019, I think. So when did you start lifting?
Me.
It was the same time.
Because we all you guys all joined the gym
19.
first. I was the last.
Marcus has been going for time.
Marcus was like,
Before I joined the gym.
Yeah.
I joined the gym. I can like tell you the clip of like the year I joined the gym actually, because I like remember like doing that standing. I like basically was just annoyed at how small my standing pre was compared to everyone else's, and then was like I'm gonna go to the gym and that made my standing pre bigger.
Yeah, wait. I guess a bit of
Yeah.
context. Finn is a personal trainer, so the topic of this podcast is going to be pretty heavily centered around weightlifting and the effects of weightlifting for parkour and our sport and stuff.
yeah.
And stuff.
Where lifting's place and strength training's place is within the sport
Yes.
currently.
Yeah.
Currently and then also in the future, I think
Yeah.
there's definitely a big direction it can go. Like, it's not just like something that people like, because I think right now, lifting is very much considered as something that just someone does. Like if you see somebody lifts in parkour at the
Oh,
moment,
wait,
like no
stop
one really.
talking. Let that go past. I'm going to cut it.
Yeah, look at shit.
Fuck off!
In it, it's so jarring.
But leave this in.
Just turn your sirens off. We're filming a podcast. Selfish bastards.
So what I was trying to say before is I feel like lifting at the moment in parkour is very much considered like people either do it or they don't, and also it's super like what like like self like goal. Like you don't really have like people have like Tom Taylor does plans and stuff, but most people who gym seem to just either go to Tom Taylor or occasionally Callum, and they just like do that, or they do their own thing. Like for example, Marcus and like Edward, you and then me will sort of do our own thing, like our own research into it, and then like try and like build their own like ideas and programs what works for them. But I think that in the future things will progress more into like more people have more information, and so people will be like actually trained as like with a coach, if that makes sense.
I think the next step, we were saying it the other night, I think the next step in the sport growing on a professional standpoint almost is going to be like hire a coach, peak and trough, and like Max Henry's that I said it the other day. Max Henry's the only person that I know at one point, I don't know if he still does it, but would take an off season in winter and like consciously take an off season in winter, train a little bit but nothing drastic at all, and would lift super heavy weights throughout that winter period, and then he would peak come spring summer where he was able to train like a lot, and he put his lifts on maintenance and would lift like two times a week at like maintenance weights, but he would consistently just jump so far, and just like every year it just seems to get bigger because he was doing like peaking and troughing and like stuff like that. So I think that's going to be the next step for athletes.
I think people I think it's slowly becoming aware of it. Like, so a good example is Motus just released their winter line was based, it was called like winter reps, and it's based on the idea that winter is an off season, and instead of going for your biggest shit because you can't because it's too wet or like too cold, you just drill like normal shit until the summer, and then once you're all drilled in and your techniques are like pucker, you go out and you do them on a fucking massive scale. That was like that's the concept like I found from
I understand that, but Finn, so you're taking an off season for winter, like
so what I did is I've taken like an off season because I was working loads and like trying to solidify myself in this gym and stuff, blah blah blah. I was like, I consciously took an off season and like tried to lift heavier. Now I've just actually yesterday like started talking to a powerlifting coach because I want to try and compete in September just for a laugh. But
that'd be sick.
Yeah,
be so sick.
But so I've just tried to get as big a lift as I can, not necessarily. I haven't consciously not trained at all, so I haven't trained in like months, but it was just because of work and life and stuff like that got in the way. So just to prove that it does have that does work for me, like last month I think Marcus came down to mini spot and I did a jump at mini spot. Having not trained, the only thing that felt rusty was my technique, and to an extent on off seasons, you want like when you powerlift, you want like an introductory to your new block. Like it's a week where it's like kind of easy, but you kind of get yourself into it. And then I think that's the only thing that would happen with parkour is you'd need to have that introductory week because your joints won't feel the same if you took like a more intense off season. But if you kept training in the off season, you should be okay.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah,
if you start reintroducing jumps after not jumping for ages, you'll get tendonitis.
Yeah. But I went to mini spot and did a jump that I wouldn't have been able to do prior. So my jump increased.
Okay.
Like
in terms of physicality, it wasn't like a mental jump. It was like a distance thing.
Yeah, and I was like,
I was there. I watched it happen. I couldn't do the jump.
Yeah.
Which jump? A lot of our viewers will know me.
You know, mini spots. They're like the simple Kong Pre. They're like wall running from the car park. Yeah. There's that Kong Pre, and on the right hand side, the step
slowly goes down.
Yeah.
Declines.
There's a curve.
Stand on the curve of the flower bed and jump up to the first.
I got you.
So you know how you usually do that one down?
Yeah.
That's a classic one to do down, being stood up.
Yeah, it's a slight one
big.
up.
Yeah,
and it was just like
big.
But so I did that after having not trained for so long, because physically I had increased strength.
Okay. How did your mental feel? Because I was going to ask, are you worried about coming back into parkour in the summer? Like, how do you feel mentally about it? Rather than obviously you're going to be stronger, like you discovered with this jump. But how do you feel about like mental challenges and stuff like that after not doing the sport for so long.
I think there's two things. Well,
Yeah.
I'll let you say what you think the experience is going to be, and I'm going to put out what I think two experiences might be from what might happen.
I think my mental game has always been quite strong, so I've like known my limits quite well. So I think it will be like this slow build. I'm gonna be careful about it. Take my time, introduce myself into jumps and stuff like that, and then I think it shouldn't take me too long to kind of get back to where I'm comfortable again. Whether or not, I think most important thing would be, am I comfortable in my technique? And I won't have to kind of think about the physical side of stuff. But it's the techniques, like, am I going to bail properly? Can I still roll almost? Stuff like that. But I think it shouldn't take me too long. I can't think of, like, Brighton's actually quite nice for it, because there's like loads of
Mini spot.
There's like risk
Risk-free.
free or like low risk
Worst
jumps
case, you're
around.
bouncing your bum on the floor.
Exactly, which is the worst that comes to worst. And the best thing about weight training, you get a big bunda.
Big bunda, yeah. I think with that, like in your case, I don't like it does depend specific per person. But like for example, the two scenarios I think that like for me that would occur would be one, if it was like me. The first one would be I would not acknowledge the new strength. Like I would probably like, oh yeah, I'm way stronger now, but I like whilst the first like couple of sessions I would acknowledge it, and then next thing you know I'm like a bit too scared because I'm not sure, and like I'm like, oh, maybe I am weaker, like or like maybe I can't jump as far, and that's like that would sort of set you back, and you'd have to build up again, but then eventually you'd get to the point where like you're like, shit, well my jump is bigger because I'm stronger now, or you like the first session you did a new jump that was bigger. And that just sends you all the way up. You're like, fuck, I'm way stronger than I was before.
Yeah.
All I have to do is drill in some techniques, make sure my bounce is good, and next thing you know, you can send bigger shit than you've ever done before.
That's
you
the
know what I mean?
biggest.
Like, as long as you've got like a good, like for me, like, I mean, for example, I have like 11 years of training, so if I took a year out or like a 6 months out and gymmed loads, I could come back and like I've got a comfortable base. I've got like a base level. I know that there's shit like that like is just there in my brain and will never go away.
Yeah.
So if I came like, because I've been injured, like when I found myself at IMAX, like as soon as I could train after the injury, I wasn't like, oh shit, like I can't, I'm super scared. I was just like, well, I know what I'm doing. I just have to wait until I can do it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think you'd have like, I think for you as well, you know you've got that base level.
Yeah.
So you'll just come in, you'll be like, shit, I'm stronger. And then next thing you know, you'll be doing bigger shit just naturally because you'll be like, well, I can go further. Like, it's not, and it's not something, it won't restrict you in like a sense. Obviously your tech might be a bit off at first, but as you do more and more stuff, you'll be less and less scared, and it will just increase.
I think the biggest facts coming into it isn't going to be the fear. I think the first thing is going to be technique.
Technique management, especially with the new power, you have to like.
Yeah, but it's like even like the timing of a jump, like the timing of swing, the arm swing to like the extension of your legs, like that. That I think is the first thing to get lost.
I think that's something that also is one of the first to come back, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the hardest
I hope.
one to get, but it is like one of the ones that will come back, definitely.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Because it's the most natural, well not the most natural, it's it's the most common.
And it's something you can feel out as well, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm doing
Yeah.
the running pre this way, I didn't go very far. Now I do it like this, it's like, oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah,
that's so
yeah.
wonderful.
And that's why Brighton is so good for it. You've got like mini spot, you've got the Sainsbury's spot,
Yeah.
you've got the running pre-up, the relatively big one. I can take my time with that. Like, oh, I bounce it and it's got like the corner slopes. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
it's not dead. Or like I bounce it and land on my arse and it drops like this much. So as long as I'm not like straight arming it directly behind my body,
It's
I'll
totally
be fine.
chill.
So I think that it'll be interesting to see. But I think that
So
the
too.
only potential
Exciting.
downside is I've not been training. So I think it'll be even better if I use my off season and trained like an athlete instead of using my off
Yeah,
season and
that's the only
trained like
thing.
a
You
powerlifter.
train like.
Because I've been training for like I sumo deadlift, which is a really wide stance, which while increasing your base strength, and my quads are stronger, my hamstrings stronger, my glutes are stronger. It makes more sense that maybe you'd do that for 1 month block, and then you swap back to like conventional deadlift where your hands are legs on the inside of your hands, because that has a way more similar carryover to a standing pre.
It's the positioning.
Yeah.
When you're standing pre, most people take off with their feet together.
Yeah.
I take off with my feet shoulder width apart because that's how I load all the weight in the gym.
Yeah.
When I'm doing squats and shit, so that's where I'm the most strongest.
So
That makes a lot
it'll
of sense.
all be a case of like, if I was programming for like that, I'd be like, cool, let's do a maximal strength or absolute strength or whatever for a block. Then the next block is like bit more sport specific, and then the third block is like very sport specific.
Yeah.
Winter's over, now you go train. So you do like 3 months worth of like teetering down into the specifics of a big jump, a running pre, balance work, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then you'll go like banging, then fly it from that.
Yeah.
I think that's like going to be the next step for like the pro athletes, and where they're maybe
Not just pros. I think like people who like at any level can just like get into it, and then as long like obviously you need a bit like depending on like what degree you have the money and you can spend on like a coach. You know, but like you can always anyone can go to the gym and just sort of be like, oh, this is like researched, and have a little look and be like, yeah.
But
most people, unfortunately, I think the most common thing that for the gym is bodybuilding. Like that's mostly what people do. Like people go to the gym to become bigger. So that's the most common. Like when you go on TikTok, for lack of a better example, all the gym stuff is like just about bodybuilding. So you don't really get a lot of. Most people in parkour will benefit more from like athlete training.
Yeah.
Which is like very different because bodybuilding is just like progressive overload and just do as much like until failure stuff because you want to build as much muscle. But like as an athlete, you shouldn't go to failure because you're going to be training the next day and you'll just be fucked and you'll put on too much mass and just like not be able to move as much.
I think the people out of it all would benefit are the pros, purely because if you're new to lifting, you can get very strong very quick because there's a thing called Noob Gains. Which is kind of fun.
It's true.
Your body adapts to the new stimulus so rapidly and so efficiently that you can pack on like kilos on the barbell almost every week and make mad progress. And it's when you get more intermediate, advanced, higher
Plateau a bit.
That's when the plateaus start to happen.
Yeah,
There's a guy called Jeff Nippard. I'll quote loads of things like
That makes
powerlifting.
sense then,
So there's a guy called Jeff Nippard that talks about the exact same thing, and then some people go to the gym and try and get really strong, and they'll be lifelong intermediates because they'll hit that plateau point. But then nothing changes. You're still trying to hit this wall with like a banana. Like the ball's not going to fall down. So that's when you start introducing different elements to it. So if you're trying to get a massive deadlift and you plateau at 200 kilos, that's when you start introducing pause deadlifts, block pulls, switch stance, get more efficient with your technique, work out everything around there. That's when a coach will come into play. But as a new lifter, you can just go for that year, maybe even year and a half. You can just pack on the weight, get really strong really quickly, adapt to the new muscle, and then like the likes of Callum or any of the Storer boys and stuff, where they've been training, like us for example as well, especially you've been training for so long that you've probably already hit your intermediate peak. Now you have to start thinking about how can you incorporate other things to advance that further. That's why I think like the next step for the pro athletes.
That's what this guy's for.
that's what the next step for the pro athletes is going to be, where they're like the pros and the top tier, and the guys that have been training for 10 plus years are going to have to start looking at like, I can drill this jump as much as I want, my technique will improve, like there's small micro changes, but my muscles aren't going to get any stronger from just doing this. Now I need to work out how I can load it differently externally, come back to the same jump and use that newfound.
And that's like the general like of how you'll get stronger.
That's
just like building muscle towards parkour.
Yeah.
I think the super interesting thing is the peaking and troughing, if I'm honest.
That's
the thing that interests me the most, because like there's the mental side, you can peak mentally and you can peak physically. And if you can align those two, like you'll just be fucked. Like so I think if you can train in a way that designates days where you have like you can almost like figure out which day, like I was saying to you that I feel like I can almost like gauge it now, like when I'm actually at my physical and mental peak in like terms of like the week, and like that's when I'm going to try and go training the most, is that I'll like try and rest on the days when I'm not physically like at my peak, or like not feeling so good, and then on the days when I'm feeling fucking incredible, I'm like, right, today's the day, I'll just go out and just get some shit and try and like really push it.
It's like Ed Scott peaking for one of his, for like Project Underground. So you'd like do strength training, like basic powerlifting kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wonder if Tim Champion peaks for skill comps.
As far as I understand, I think Tom Taylor did to an extent peak them in their training. So you'd go there. Then as you get closer, you would taper back on the strength training, but probably increase parkour
Yeah,
training,
the skill training.
and then increase like. So say you do a ratio of 5 strength training to 2 parkour. You'd then at the beginning of it all, you'd then go to when you're like a month out from the competition. You'd then go to like 1 strength training and 5 parkour, and it's just that like sport specific nature as well. Like
Yeah.
I find that very interesting. The idea of like making your body peak at the same time as your mind, as your mental game.
Yeah.
It's totally
Yeah.
possible, man.
It's totally I can't imagine it being easy.
Well,
Because like, mental is so comes and goes with days.
I was
sometimes.
saying, but it comes and goes with days, but like it always gains more when your body's doing more, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Or at
yeah.
least I find. And I was saying to Beans the other night that year when I did like the dive roll, all the clips from like the latest video, I feel like that year I was just peaking. Like I just had this innate ability to just like know which day I felt fucking incredible, and I'd just be like, right, well I'm gonna do this, because I wouldn't do like loads of shit that day. I would just do one thing that was like right on my limit, and like that day I just would kind of like understand that like today was a good day, and I'd go and do those things, or like because I think about the thing that I'd always know before I went to the spot what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then I would usually end up going, and I'd like not train a couple of days before, and then also only think about like, or if I did, it would be like super light, and then think about like how I can train in a way that benefits that.
Yeah.
And so like I would sort of like go to the spot with the mindset of like, this is the day when I'm going to be the freshest, and this is the day when I'm going to hit the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And it would just kind of draw out like, and that's always been a bit of my mindset. So like I never really thought about it in this way,
Yeah.
but like that's always kind of how it's happened for me. Like whenever we've gone places like London, it's been to like do, like I'm going to do the double down. I went that day to do that double down. I went that day to dive roll IMAX. Like those are the days when I went to do that thing. I didn't like go and just happen to do it because I was feeling it. I was like, I'm going to do it because today is the day I feel like I can.
Well, yeah, you do get that. You wake up feeling really good some days.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's peaking.
Is
Is there anything that you would say that you do or you've changed with your own mindset in order to, I don't know, peak on certain days? Like,
No,
you consciously make an
I
effort?
wasn't consciously. So I unconsciously did it. Is what
It was
I'm saying.
unconscious,
Back then, it was
right.
unconscious, and I'm going to try and fabricate it this year. Like this year, I'm going to do it consciously.
right.
Because last year, during summer, I had like really good training, but I'd never really peaked mentally. Is what I was. I've like been saying for the last like year, like 2 months or so. I feel like last year I did loads of really good physical stuff, but like none of it was quite at the edge. And because of that, I never really peaked mentally, so I never got to this point where I was like, yeah, I'm like fucking killing it right now, I'm going to keep progressing. I was always like, well, I'm at this level, and I can just keep doing this stuff at this level, you know what I mean? Whereas this year, I want to sort of like find the days where I'm like, feel super good and feel like my physicality is really good for that, like, you know, like maybe I'll just finish the gym block and it's like, I'm just really strong at the moment, I'm ready to go. I'll then do something fucking sick, or try and set a really fucking sick goal then, hit that goal, and then that will continue my mental gain.
Yeah.
Like that will just be like, okay, the mental gain is going to keep going higher.
Yeah.
In theory, is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Essentially.
It's the other thing about like peaking as well is after that peak, you're going to be a little bit shitter.
Yeah.
Which is the funny thing as well. So
It's
that's
true.
where the mental game has to adjust. Because
Yeah.
that's what you peak. You get to your limit,
Best you can be.
and then you cannot sustain that because you are the best you
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah.
So like again in the like powerlifting, you'd peak for your comp, and then you'd probably you'll be a little bit fatigued. Being shitter doesn't mean going back to square one.
No.
But being a little bit shitter, you're
Well, it
gonna
means
be
the next
I'm fatigued.
week or couple of days is not as good.
I'm fatigued. I can't do it, and then but then you build and you build and you build, and then you might peak an extra little bit, and then you blah blah blah. So I think the parkour side is going to be stuff. Like if you're doing like an absolute balls to wall, all out strength limit, mental peak as well, for like the next week or couple of weeks or so, you'd be like, cool, let's take it easy. Let's train at a level which I can sustain. Let's train at like 70% of my maximum, and then try it again. Maybe like peak there. But like because parkour is so new and stuff like that, it'll be you can peak multiple times in a year. But like because parkour is so. I think it's a very unique sport that it's almost like you're doing every time you do something wham, it's almost like you're going to a competition as a gymnast.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to exert.
It's
the best.
mentally fucking draining.
Yeah. So it's like doing that. Like, what would happen if you wrote yourself a parkour program in which you were like, the second month of January is where I'm gonna go, or not January, say the second week of summer, I'm doing the biggest shit. Doesn't matter what it is, you just got it in your head.
In the toilet.
Yeah. Biggest shit, big clog.
Yeah, that's my plan for this summer, like genuinely.
But the second week is the week that you do it.
Yeah.
A day in that week is the week you do it. You sleep your 8 hours, you eat all your calories, you do whatever. Second week, banging. You then take it chill for the next 2-3 weeks. Then but you allocate those times, and you're like, imagine it was a day, it's a competition day. So you do that. 2-3 weeks later, you're like, okay, now I'm a bit better for like another big thing. Or if you're doing it, like it's the next big. It's gonna be insane, like where it can all go. But there are some sports where you have to have an on season where you're balls to the wall continuously, like football. Like when you've got football seasons, you are training, so every week you have to be on the games.
Ski seasons.
So it's parkour like that. But how would you do parkour like that, or could you do it as effectively, if not more, if you're doing like a Dom Tommaso this is the big thing, the first week of that, then you try, and then there's so many ways to program it because it's such a new thing.
That's another slight example, by the way, is Dom Tomato, like, basically, like, the way he trains is like, well, the way he trained, like, there the year, when he was, like, doing, like, fucking mad shit, is he would go, quote, hunting. So instead of, like, doing days of, like, full training, he would just go out, feel physically, like, make sure his body's, like, physically pristine, find a challenge that's really fucked up, do that challenge, and then stop. And then he'd go, then like maybe like a couple of days later, same thing, go out, he'd like rest, go out, find a fucked up challenge, and then stop, rest again. So it was like periods of like really intense moments where he'd like physically like push himself to the limit, and then he'd rest for a while, and then go back into pushing himself to the physical limit again, sort of thing. So it's less of like a actual training style, like training like physically, like trying to build himself up to, like, he doesn't quite like, what's the word, like gym and plan it. He just like goes out, but like will acknowledge the fact that if he does something mad and fucked up, he has to have a rest period and then try again and then do something else, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be it'll be interesting to see how it works. Like,
I think the mental one is the most. I don't think anyone really, like with parkour, you can't really, especially because you prep, you can't really do anything that's like your physical like peak, because you have to almost do it. If you did it like if it was genuinely your physical hardest thing you could ever do, you'd probably only be able to do it once. You know what I mean? If you wanted to go for the stick, it's not really a thing.
Yeah.
But I think you can properly push yourself to the like mental limit, because like I've done challenges like a great like, so like there's been a couple of things where like that is the genuinely like once I start doing that challenge, after that challenge I genuinely don't do anything else that day, and it's because my brain can't, like, I've released all the endorphins and I can't take it anymore. I'm like, that's it, like I'm now a slump in the corner.
I get
like
that.
I've literally got like, when I did the double lap down, a great example is double down IMAX, literally did it, and then I just like, after that I like just slumped. So I was like, I'm done. Like, well, my brain is not allowing me to sort of get into the mood to train again. I'm like, I just have to rest.
So you hit the weed,
I have to
babe.
like mentally, yeah, I mean, yeah, that doesn't help. But like, but I was already like, I'd already like consciously understood that I was like, oh, I'm not doing anything else today.
Yeah,
like, I'm
yeah,
not training anymore. Like that's the day over,
I get
sort
that.
of thing.
I
And the
used to
same
get
with like,
shakes.
the same with Broadfield.
Do shit.
The same with Broadfield. Like when I did that massive concrete, I did it, and I was like, right, well, like that's me done for the day.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna sit around, and, like I'm gonna film Marcus training and like, you know, do some little jumps and shit.
About that Broadfield, so after we released our video, I don't know if it was because of the video, but now
I told him
George
about this
McGowan, Berkey,
So
fucking Travis,
so
Toby.
I told
Everyone's
before
gonna hit it.
before we released the video, I talked to Cam about the Concrete, and he was like, "Oh, I've never been to that spot," and he was like, "I know Max and Benj have been there a bunch," and I was like, "Yeah, I know that like, I know that we've all trained there, and then they like the store guys used to live in that area and would go," and so I was telling Cam about the whole video because he asked about the trailer and shit. And I told him about the Concrete and like showed him like perspective. I was like, oh, this is what it's like, you know, the angles and stuff. And he was like, okay, like sounds pretty big. Obviously not being there. He then went there and like I then told him, I was like, oh, that's a really good spot. Like if you go there, sick video. Like you could probably get like some mad shit.
Yeah.
And they go there.
Did, yeah.
They did go there. And then And then obviously Toby does the concrete, and Callum messages me. She's like, you know that concrete's fucking massive. And I was like, shit, that's so gas.
Nice little ego boost.
Yeah, and then Callum, obviously Toby, I mean, it's pretty gas that Toby thinks is big enough to like do and like be a big concrete. And then Travis saw Toby do it and then went and did it. And he sent me the clip of him doing it. And he was like, oh no, he posted like that teaser. He posted like a clip on his story of him like running into the wall. And I was like, oh, big concrete that. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, it took me a while, but it was like pretty, when I did it, I like flew over it. And he was like, this is the one you did? And I was like, yeah. He was like, Chris, that's fucking massive. That's sick. And then, yeah, obviously George did it as well.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those things where, like, I don't, like, subconsciously they obviously went to Royalfield because I told them about it. But I don't think they went there to be like, oh yeah, we have to get Toby to this massive concrete.
We didn't.
But it's like
biggest downfall of that video, I think, was we didn't do that justice
in size.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
no, I know.
That's the only downfall of like fisheye and shit like that.
Everyone's like, yeah,
stylizing
but it's the
edits.
stylized. Like if we'd like done the video the way it was supposed to be, it would have suited the video.
Yeah.
But like it would have been a bit more.
Two angles on that concrete. You know?
Yeah,
we should have done it for everything.
Mate, I only did it once though.
Even that running pre that I did in Dorking, the fusion running pre.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember doing it. And I was like, oh, this is like really cool.
If we
like,
film that again now, I'd climb onto the roof. And I'd go like into there and like.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's really cool, blah blah. And I look back on the video, I'm like, I'm really tall. This is a fisheye, and it just like the angle. I was like, it just looks like a.
It was just
running pre.
supposed to be the style of the video.
So long. No, I like it though. Yeah, it was for the edit.
Yeah, I think that was basically a case of like they saw our video and then also spoke to me about it and they were like, let's go there. And then obviously Travis then saw them do it and was like, oh, I want to do big concrete.
Yeah.
So went there and then George obviously they went the same day, and they also like, so it's like one of those things like you see, so someone does like double down at IMAX, a couple of people start going to go do that. You know what I mean? I mean that's what I did.
Yeah.
Saw Luke do it and I was like, I want to do that. Then did it. They also went to Red Hill. Like after our video as well, they were like, "Oh yeah, go back to Red Hill as well." So,
are we?
Because Callum
just
sent me
start a copy of everything we do.
Apparently
do we need to start copyrighting?
Because they
where's the monetization?
Callum sent me a video from Red Hill as well when they went
Right.
Red Hill the day after Broadfield, and he sent me a little video of the gap. He's like, "Fuck it, it was like big boy dive roll," and I was like, "Yeah, the dive roll."
Is Aiden gonna hit that?
Aiden wanted to hit it. I don't know if he'll do it or not, but I don't really know who else would do it, to be honest.
Unfortunately, I have to go and get ready for work.
Should we?
That's okay. We sort of faded out into
wrap it up
out of the gym stuff anyway into like
Yeah.
things.
Well,
long story short, boys and girls, lift some heavy weights, bang some fat gaps. Make sure you read Callum's Pillars of
strength. Is it strength? No, Pillars of Parkour.
Pillars of Parkour, because that talks about the mental game, the strength game, all shit like that. Because if you get stronger, make sure your technique and your mental game catches up to the strength. Don't do anything rogue. Don't get really strong and be like, I've got a fat jump, and do something you just physically might be able to do, but technically are not ready for.
Yeah, there's a total difference between having a fat jump and being able to do a double Kong.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be able to double Kong, not just be able to jump far.
Also, having a fat jump and knowing the right way to bail that jump.
Yeah.
But I'm sure people have been training long enough nowadays.
Also, hire Finn as your personal trainer.
Yeah, definitely.
He's in the biz, and he's bloody amazing at his job.
When you see me bang the best clips I've ever done this year, it's going to be because of him. So
we're going to get him on
so
it.
you're going to have to, like, you know...
You're going to be my guinea
hire
pig as
him,
well.
and then next thing you know, you'll be as good as me, which is thoroughly average. So...
Apart
Look
from
forward to
everyone
that.
else is copying your fat Kong.
Yeah.
Did it 3 years ago.
Bang average, guys.
On the queue.
Yeah, did it 3 years ago as well.
Yeah, did you see the thing Phil Doyle commented on it?
Yeah.
He commented, "Oh, Chris going for
To
Star
the-
Awards
yeah,
and shit."
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, nah, sus, mate, 2 years.
Going
Like,
for Star Awards.
sorry, mate, that was 4 years ago, baby.
I got a really nice compliment because obviously parkour flips look flashy in parkour.
Oh, yeah.
Someone watched the video and was like, the coolest thing out of everything was your side pre, side out.
Mm.
Then they said flip and flip.
Flip
Because
and
they were
flip.
Nice. Flip and flip,
But
baby.
they were like, that was the coolest thing. Everything else was a bit lame. And I was like, yeah, you're a muggle.
Violated. I'll do that side pre right now.
I was like this. I was like, yes.
Actually, that side pre's sick. Actually, I really
That
want to
is-
go back
I
and
really
do
want to go
that.
back and do it.
Me too.
I reckon do it cleaner.
Sunday we're going to Red Hill. If you're around, dead.
My life is
Are you
busy.
around
man.
Sunday?
I think so, yeah.
Cool. This won't be out on Sunday, but Come Red Hill. In summary, that was a brief interlude of brief little chat about like the idea of lifting and how it equates to like peaking and like your training and how you can use it in a beneficial way to sort of push yourself to your limits.
And the cool thing is, currently it's all a theory because this is the start. What I reckon,
Oh,
this is
yeah,
the
that's
start of
crazy.
like the start of people having to think about this stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
So peaking and troughing and all things like that. It's not necessarily the
It's
right
not
way to go
proven.
about it.
It's
But
not
I think
proven
it's
just
going to be
yet.
like
Stay
that is
tuned.
the next place that the pros
Yeah.
are going to have to start thinking.
So watch out for that, and then if you want to hear more on it, comment, and then we'll get like people like Callum and Tom.
Callum,
Well,
Tom.
Callum and Tom literally live near us, so we'll just get them
Yeah.
and we'll
It'll
fucking
be
chat.
sick to.
We'll chat the poop. I don't know as much as Beans or Callum and Tom about lifting, but I'll just sit there and be like, you guys are so strong.
Jamie's like bench press, yeah.
I'd be like, guys, do you think bench press is beneficial for parkour? I can bet, guys, my bench press is really strong. Is that good for parkour?
Yeah, I need to
How do you
fucking go. I need to go.
Love you.
We hope you enjoyed this bite-sized podcast.
Little
We love
snack.
you all. Like, subscribe, leave a comment about what else we should talk about, who else we should get on, and your mum's number. Thank you very much, and bye.
DM me any nudes.
Mum's number. I love mums.